reporters caught up with Patrick Queen, and he had this to say about his upcoming reuniting with the Ravens, the team that drafted him out of LSU.
Back, I don't know if I said that or not, put that in the public or not. I wasn't wanted back. I didn't get the offer back, and it's definitely kind of upsetting, being there for 4 years and the bond that you grow with your teammates and stuff. But at the end of the day, like I said, the first few months, you definitely go through those feelings, and now, after playing games, you just go by. You just want to win games. You want to win with your teammates, your new teammates. You want to bond with those guys. Everything that you do is for the organization that you're at now. And like I said, I will have feelings. Obviously, anybody in my position would this week. So I'm just take one day at a time. And whatever happens, happens.
How do you channel that?
Just self-control. Prayed about it a little bit. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think the outside picture makes it bigger than what it is. I think for me personally, it's just. Like any situation that anybody, like I said, that would be in my shoes, they would feel a certain way, but I don't think it had to be anything more, anything extra.
Have you talked to Harbaugh or DeCosta since you signed here?
I have not, no. Never had a conversation with either of those two, so, yeah.
How long did it take you to kind of work through all of those feelings?
We're going to end it with Jeff. Go ahead, Jeff.
You can answer.
What was the question?
I said, how long did it take you to kind of work through those feelings and get to the other side where you are now?
Probably till the end of August, early September. Even though I signed and stuff, you obviously still go through those feelings and stuff. Just knowing that a long 4 years that you put in blood, sweat, and tears over there, like I said, the guys that you bonded with, build close relationships with, even the training staff to the strength staff, everybody that you built a relationship with, you put your body on the line every single time that you went out there, even when you could barely even move your leg or whatever the injury may have been. You just go out there and try to do your best for that team. So I definitely did feel a type of way after the whole situation, but I'm over it now.
He's become a polarizing figure in and around Baltimore. The Ravens' former first-round draft pick back in 2020 out of LSU. He was drafted 28th overall in that opening round by Eric DeCosta and company. Went on to have a second-team All-Pro season in what became his final year with the Ravens last season in 2023. This is a player who came in very young to the National Football League. He is just 25 years young at this point, and again has been around since the 2020 season. And this past offseason, of course, the Ravens let him walk in free agency, knowing how much they had on the books and invested in Roquan Smith. PQ went on to sign a 3-year, $41 million deal with the Steelers. Of course, Baltimore declined PQ's 5th-year option the year prior and instead opted to sign Roquan to a record-setting 5-year, $100 million contract. We understand the history here. We understand the growth. And it was also a journey for PQ. It was one that was tumultuous right out of the gate. Somebody who struggled in coverage. Somebody who maybe, just maybe, was trying too hard to live up to the Ray Lewis standard that's been set in Baltimore for years and years, that the Hall of Famer left behind. Of course, a legacy that's gone untouched since. And PQ, as you just heard there, and what you're seeing on the screen, transcribed by friend of the show, Brooke Pryor of ESPN.com. Queen said, quote, "I wasn't wanted back. I didn't get an offer back. It's definitely kind of upsetting being there for 4 years, the bond that you grow with your teammates. At the end of the day, the first few months, you definitely go through those feelings." He also said he will definitely have feelings throughout this week leading up. And based on what DeShon Elliott mentioned in part of his interview with the Punchline podcast, you can bet that PQ is going to have a whole lot of emotions come game time in between the lines Sunday in Pittsburgh.
The game last night, we won. Yes, sir, we won. We're on the bus back to the airport. He's like, bruh, I'm not even going to be in the locker room this week. I said, why? He was like, you know why? I said, no, I don't. He goes, it's that week. It's Ravens week. I said, oh, yeah, they're going to ask me a lot of questions. And technically he is a traitor, because from last year to this year, I mean, hey, I'm going to be real. You can. Hey, money talk, BS walk. So he decided to go somewhere who appreciated him more than Baltimore did. But I've realized this, that a lot of times players that leave Baltimore, they go and they play better, they become great because Baltimore decides to let their talent walk. God, I don't know why. But we'll see. We'll see how PQ handles this week. I'm sure PQ is going to give a lot of tips and whatnot to our offense. Hopefully. I know he's preparing for this game. I know he can't wait to play in this game because I know he cannot wait to talk mess to the sideline when he makes a play. So this will be fun. This will be very fun.
That's not the last that you'll hear of DeShon Elliott throughout the course of this live stream, who was in rare form on Marlon Humphrey's show, which dropped earlier today via the Punchline podcast. But the moral of the story here is that Patrick Queen is very much still in his feelings about how things shook out in Baltimore. And you hear it. You hear it in his voice. You see it in his face. And we've watched this sort of unfold over the last several months. He went on to say it took him until August and maybe even early September to fully get over this. He went through a full training camp in Pittsburgh and still wasn't fully over what happened, which was the Ravens let him walk. They did not put any effort in to try and keep Patrick Queen around Baltimore. And he said he has not talked to John Harbaugh or Eric DeCosta since he finished playing. I don't think that's all that unusual. You allow the business side to be the business side, and these guys obviously have representatives that handle that side. Jeff Zaribek of The Athletic wrote back in April and reshared today that the Ravens made no effort to keep PQ, as I just referenced. Whether they were right or wrong, they didn't think they could afford paying another inside linebacker notable money after paying Roquan, and they prioritized retaining Nnamdi Madubuike with little cap space. And in that specific article, you see in the bottom, Baltimore also made no effort this offseason to bring back Queen, even after the open market didn't yield the type of contract offers that many pundits projected for the 24-year-old inside linebacker. Queen wound up agreeing to a 3-year, $41 million deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, Baltimore's biggest rival. And some other notes as well, just kind of related to what maybe DeShon Elliott was referencing. Jeff notes at the top, the Ravens haven't been willing to match or exceed reasonable outside contract offers to keep a few of their own players over the years. Maybe the allure of going back home was the deciding factor for Jadeveon Clowney, but the 2-year, $20 million deal he got from the Carolina Panthers was not out of line with expectations following his 9.5 sack season with the Ravens last year. Given the team's current outside linebacker depth chart, and this was again back in April, and some of the struggles it's had in trying to get immediate impact from young pass rushers, ponying up a little more to keep Clowney certainly had some merit. No shit. I think Jadeveon would want to be in Baltimore right now if he had it his way. And the Ravens sure as hell would want Jadeveon Clowney back, but they weren't willing to pay that price tag. Some of that was philosophical, and some of that is just the realistic reality that you live in when you have a record-setting, mega deal franchise quarterback that's on the books. DeShon Elliott was in no way done there. Marlon Humphrey got after him a little bit in terms of going to the dark side, joining the Pittsburgh Steelers. Players have done this in the past. They've gone from Baltimore to Pittsburgh or vice versa. There's in this game that have played on both teams. Deontay Johnson, the newest, who will suit up as a Raven, of course, for the first time against Pittsburgh in this rivalry on the other side. Arthur Maulet, for the second year, will be a Baltimore Raven on this side of the rivalry, and so on and so forth. Chris Wormley maybe not getting a ton of attention. He's certainly a part of that. But Marlon, you know, he had to hang it over his buddy's head a little bit on the Punchline podcast earlier today.
Talk about lack of loyalty, being on the other side of things, being a full-blown traitor. let's just talk about the Ravens Steelers from the other side now.
I wouldn't say traitor because Eric DeCosta had a chance to sign me back, and he chose not to. He chose to sign number 32, which y'all have over there. So, yeah, I'm putting it out there. I don't give a fuck.
Oh, sorry about the language there, but DeShon calling spade a spade. Marlon referred to him as a full-blown traitor. And DeShon in response, I wouldn't say traitor because Eric DeCosta had a chance to sign me back, and he chose not to. He chose to sign number 32. Now, some of you within the Twitter sphere took this as maybe throwing shots at Marcus Williams. Of course, Marcus is number 32, and we all know how tumultuous of a season it's been for him in Baltimore. And we also know in the offseason of 2022, the Ravens opted to give Marcus the bag in free agency and signed Williams to a 5-year, $70 million deal from New Orleans. Marcus, ever since, has certainly had flashes of brilliance, but between injuries, particularly that torn pec, and now underperformance, he hasn't exactly lived up to the expectation that comes along with a lucrative contract that Eric DeCosta and company gave him. And I think you could probably make the case, and we'll have this conversation down the road when it's all said and done, but one of our Super Chat donors earlier today in the Ravens Lunch Hour live stream commented on something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. Could this be Eric DeCosta's worst acquisition, worst contract given out in free agency? It's certainly aging as if it could be in that conversation. But I think this is more about, from a DeShon Elliott standpoint, his feelings towards the organization than it is about Marcus Williams. With that said, because there has been such a discourse, such a dialogue, such endless amounts of noise, for good reason, surrounding Marcus Williams, need he any more motivation? Need he any more bulletin board material? This is what you want if you're a player. I hope Marcus sees this, channels it, using the proper energy, and uses it to his advantage moving forward so that he can salvage his season in Baltimore and his career. I mean, the guy is statistically one of the worst ranked safeties in the entire league. And at times, he's got you wondering, what's going on out there? There's several plays that come to mind, especially coming off that Thursday night performance against Jamar Chase and the Cincinnati Bengals when Jamar lit him up for 260 plus through the air, several touchdowns to go along with it. But my, oh my, DeShon Elliott has been dominating the headlines today because that's not all he had to say. He took a shot at the Ravens. He was playing around with Marlon Humphrey when it comes to the 32nd ranked pass defense that this Ravens team owns right now. And look what he said about his former Miami Dolphins. Good Lord. He told Marlon Humphrey and Jack Settleman, last year I played on a team that was soft as F. There were some guys who were tough, but the majority of the team was not mentally tough individuals. Oh, my God. Here's the problem, DeShon. And I choose to remember DeShon as a hard-hitting, highly physical, AFC North, classic Baltimore Raven. Problem is, the numbers tell you something different. The guy just wasn't available. 2 of his 3 seasons in Baltimore, guys, he played just 6 games. In 2020, he played all 16, started all 16. But in year 1 and year 3, he was unavailable for him. And he kind of left you wondering, what if? Well, I'm sure the Dolphins are thinking the exact same way. Look at his numbers last year. He's the one talking all this shit about the Dolphins. Well, statistically, DeShon, not exactly something to write home about for you last year. In 2023, he allowed 5 touchdown passes, 18.6 yards per completion, and missed 9 tackles while a member of the Dolphins. While I don't think DeShon Elliott is anywhere close to being soft as a football player, I do know there's some things that you just keep to yourself. And he probably could have done exactly that on Marlon's podcasts, but he didn't. And now he's over pretty much every single headline, sparking a lot of controversy. And certainly there's no exception when it comes to the Ravens as well from some of his earlier comments.